Hi, I'm Dee, and Aaron has asked me to speak a little about why I learned Welsh, how I learned Welsh, and what it means to me to speak Welsh now. Um, as you can hear from my accent, if you don't know me already, I didn't grow up in Wales. I didn't even grow up in the UK. I grew up in New Zealand. And as a child, I was quite aware of the Maori language. We lived in a small country town, and there were a lot of Maori people that lived round about, and I went to school with them, of course. And we heard Maori words, and I think I became sort of sensitized to the fact that a minority language is really important to the culture of people. It was just something that I guess was part of my growing up. And it meant that when I made the decision to come to Wales in 2008, I thought, okay, I really need to speak Welsh. I know that everyone speaks English in Wales. I had Welsh friends telling me, you don't need to learn Welsh, everybody speaks English here. But for me, to really feel part of Wales and to really understand Welsh culture, it was very important to learn to speak Welsh. So I decided, okay, I would give myself a bit of a head start if I could, and before I came, I spent a few months trying to learn some Welsh. I found an online course that was not Say Something in Welsh. It wasn't particularly effective, but it gave me some vocab, some grammatical structures, a bit of an idea of things like mutations. And I thought, okay, this language is a bit different to anything I've come across before, but, you know, I'm sure I can learn it. And I came to Cardiff full of expectations that I would just pick it up, just like that. I was a bit disappointed in Cardiff initially because there really didn't seem to be a great deal going on in Welsh around me. But I was enrolled in a course I was studying for a year at Cardiff Uni. And as a student, I was entitled to half-price Welsh lessons. So I threw myself in and enrolled in 3 lessons a week. And because I had been doing this bit of Welsh online, I sat an online assessment, and it was multiple choice, so I could sort of logically work out what some of the answers were, even when I didn't really know them. So it put me at an intermediate level. I went along to class, and as you can imagine, I hadn't spoken Welsh to anyone. I'd never actually really heard Welsh spoken, apart from that pretty awful online course. So I was a disaster. I couldn't understand anything the tutors said. When they asked me a question and expected me to respond, I had no idea. I couldn't say anything. We had little conversation groups and I didn't know anything to say. It was really, really hard. But I was pretty determined. I was not going to go back to the beginning where I should have been, because when I looked at how long it would take with the standard method, going to Mynediad and then going to Sylfaen and then going to Canolradd, and I thought, oh no, I haven't got time for all that. I want to speak Welsh. I don't want to be messing around taking so long. And then, luckily, during a holiday break, I found Say Something in Welsh. And I thought, aha, because I was searching all the time for supplementary material. Surely something is going to help me. What can I find? And I tried the first few lessons because that's all that was available when I found it. It was very early days. And I thought, this is magic. This is great. I am speaking Welsh. I understand. And okay, I don't get it right all the time, but I am speaking Welsh. I'm speaking more Welsh in this half-hour lesson than I would speak in my entire 3 lessons in the whole week when I went to the classes. So I made a lot of progress. And I went back after the holidays and I was like a new student. It was amazing. Suddenly I understood a lot more and I had confidence. I joined in. I said a lot more. I felt I could say things and I felt confident. So I carried on doing Say Something in Welsh, pouncing on every new lesson as it was released. It's sort of a competition with some other people on the forum. We were always, who can get the next lesson first? Telling Aaron when we didn't think it was hard enough. And then it came to the end of my studies, so I finished at Cardiff Uni. I carried on with Say Something in Welsh. I decided, well, this is what's doing it for me. There's no point actually spending money going to these classes. I will concentrate on speaking and learning with Say Something in Welsh. And then perhaps in the future, because I am interested in grammar and reading and writing and things, in the future I'll go back and I'll use the main course for that. But for my speaking, this is what I found. And I was lucky enough then. I started a new job and I didn't have any holidays owing to me. But the project that they had hired me for wasn't ready. And I was sort of sitting around, sitting on my thumbs, just reading manuals as you do when you have a new job. And then an opportunity came up for the first ever Say Something in Welsh bootcamp. So I thought, I have to go to this. I have to go to this. So I went and spoke to my manager and said, look, you haven't got anything ready for me just yet. I am going to be travelling around Wales. There will be times when I'm going to be in Welsh-speaking areas. I think it would be really useful for me to go and do this 1-week immersion Welsh course. And she looked at me like I was sort of losing my marbles, really. She wasn't a great supporter of the Welsh language, I have to say. But my academic arguments convinced her and she agreed, and off I went to boot camp. And I had one of the most hilarious and enjoyable weeks of my entire life. It was just amazing. Most of us didn't have a huge amount of Welsh, but we made do. We made it up as we went along. We did a lot of miming and we laughed an awful lot. We had a great time. And then I got a new job. Well, after a while, I did that first job and that was okay, but it was mainly in English, little bits of Welsh here and there, but mainly English. Then I got a new job in Cardiff and that was research, mainly in English as well. I did get to speak on Radio Cymru a few times, which was really pushing myself outside my comfort zone. But I thought, okay, I can do this. I can take on this challenge. I can use my new language and I can do this. But I was petrified I wasn't going to understand what they asked me. Luckily, it was generally only a sort of a couple of minutes slot just before the news. So I knew I wasn't going to have to speak for too long. But in those early days, I did find understanding when people spoke was still difficult. I tried to listen to Radio Cymru and I listened every day, and in the beginning it was incredibly difficult. I felt, amazingly elated if I understood one word, if a word jumped out and I thought, I know that word, yes, and then, now it's gone now, I don't understand anything. I remember I focused on the weather reports in the beginning because they're quite repetitive, kind of rains a lot. So day by day, the weather reports weren't hugely different. So I gradually started to pick up a lot more. And then one day I was preparing some food and not really listening. I was sort of daydreaming and Radio Cymru was in the background. And I found myself thinking, oh no, I don't agree with that. And I thought, I can't believe it. I have not only just understood, but I actually understood enough to realize I don't agree with them. So that was a huge moment, a huge step forward. But it takes time. It's a skill that takes a long time, and you only get there with practice, but you do get there. I've now reached the point where I understand pretty much everything on Radio Cymru. It's very, very rare that someone comes on, perhaps they're phoning in and the sound's not very clear and I struggle to understand. I don't understand the lyrics of songs, I have to say, but I don't understand the lyrics in English either, so I give myself an excuse. And I am getting better. I'm finding if I concentrate and listen, I can hear more and I can understand more. So what else is there to tell you? Well, the next step in the journey was I lost patience with living in Cardiff because it was too much English. I felt I was becoming confident in my new language. I'd been to several boot camps by then. I was actually helping out with boot camps. And every time I had to go back to Cardiff after being in the West and being immersed in Welsh and going around and using Welsh everywhere, I just did not want to go back to English. So I looked for an opportunity, and when it arose, I left Cardiff and I moved to Llandyssil in Ceredigion. I've been here more than 3 years now. I think heading towards 4 years. And I have never regretted it. There are things I do miss from Cardiff, I have to say. And I was actually back in Cardiff over Christmas and walking around, and I thought, if this city was a Welsh-speaking city, if I could go into shops, if I could hear Welsh everywhere and live my life through the medium of Welsh, I would live here. So really the only reason I'm not living in Cardiff is the language. I have moved to the West because of the language. It has given me not just a key into another part of society that English speakers are kind of vaguely aware of, but really have no idea the depth of it. Going to Welsh-speaking events and being immersed in the language and really living the culture, it's just something that you can't do through the medium of English. So I really enjoy it. But it's also, it's kind of affected my life in other ways. It's given me confidence in myself in more ways, so that I now will see, oh, look, here's a Welsh conversation group going on somewhere. I don't know any of them. Oh, it doesn't matter. Just go along, rock up, hello everyone, I'm Dee, and start talking. And I would never do that in English. I would never walk up to a group of people I didn't know and just say, hi, I'm Dee, and start talking to them. It's just a different way of life. It's given me so much more. It's made my living in Wales so much more special. And I'm really grateful. So if you're at the beginning of your journey and you're thinking, oh, am I ever going to do it? This is really hard. Yes, you can. Absolutely. Just keep going with it. Keep immersing yourself in it. It's so worth it. And if someone like me can come from New Zealand all those miles away, never having heard a word of Welsh before, and throw themselves in, and now I speak Welsh every day and live my life through the medium of Welsh, then, you know, anyone can do it. So keep going, keep at it, you will get there.